Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm here with Martin Waxman, who I'm a huge fanboy of, if I'm allowed to be an old fanboy. But I think, Martin, we've got some 5 questions for you, but I just think the
Okay.
first time I met you was at U of T, wasn't
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. The School of Continuing Studies. It's funny because we were kind of overlapping on
Yeah.
a new certificate that you ended up leading the development of and teaching in visual storytelling. And then we kept crossing paths.
Yes. Well, and I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
it's like
you.
likewise.
Thank you for joining me here. And yes, that was I remember you I met you at the Hart House, and I was so naive, Martin. I had been in the agency world for 20 some years, so education was new to me, but my Myers-Briggs is ENFJ, and that actually is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You find out these things late in life sometimes, Martin. But I love teaching, and I love developing curriculum. And you had already worked on the first case study, I think, for the
Yeah. And it's so funny because that was similar to me. It was mostly, my career was mostly agency.
right.
And then I was doing a lot of free guest talks on
Yeah.
social media, 2006, seven, no, it's probably 2007, eight, nine. And during one of the guest talks, this was in Hamilton at McMaster, someone said to me, "Hey, I run the continuing studies program at McMaster. You want to teach social media?" And I said, sure, but what does that mean? You
Yeah.
know?
We really do have a lot in
Yeah,
common in that regard sense.
yeah.
But you love teaching,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah. It's honestly, I'm surprised I didn't stumble into it earlier.
Yep. You know what? Now, damn it. I think the same thing now, but better late than never is the
Yeah.
takeaway there. And you've been tremendously successful in that. All right. So we're already in our first question, but the first question is, what is your name and what is your connection to marketing and education? We've already opened the door, but you are a member of the community, and give us a bit of your background because it's extensive.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's only because of the gray hair, right? You've been around long enough time.
Right.
And so, your background sounds better than maybe it is. Anyway, I'm Martin Waxman. Great to be here and nice seeing you, Stephen. Thank you for asking me. My background is the agency world and primarily on the PR agency side, although I did work at an ad agency as a copywriter early on in my career. And it was the marketing communications part of PR. So really a lot of overlap with marketing. And then I got interested in social media early on. One, because I thought blogging, this is amazing.
Yeah.
We now have a voice as marketing and communications professionals, something we didn't really have before.
Right.
We were
Yeah.
kind of in the background. Suddenly we could meet other people, share our thoughts on what we were doing and on the industry.
Right.
And so I kind of morphed what I did, fell into teaching social media at McMaster, then at the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. And these days, what's happened is I went back to school to do my master's in 2016, graduated in 2019, and my thesis was on AI
Mhm.
and on the relationships that human beings will have with machines, aka chatbots.
Right.
It was actually called my BFF as a chatbot.
Yes, I've read it.
No, thanks. And so that was early on, and it kind of
Yeah.
helped propel me. I guess in this case, my timing was good because everything was starting to happen with generative AI, although we didn't call it that
No.
before ChatGPT was just AI.
Right. And also, it triggers a memory in me too. In 2015, 2014, I did some talks at the Boston Public Library and here in Toronto on chatbots, but they were the brand chatbots that were
Yeah,
like scripted, pre-generative AI. But I was fascinated them as a brand extension and also as customer service. And
yeah.
right? You know what I mean? Because that happened there, so it's a little confusing. But maybe it just shows if we stick around long enough, we get gray hair and we go where we go where our interests lie. I think we have
Yeah,
in common. Yeah,
which is
yeah,
really good. So these days I teach digital strategy at the Schulich School of Business.
yeah,
And I'm also the associate director of the Future of Marketing Institute there, which
yeah,
is a really interesting institute started by David Rice, Professor David Rice. And we work with a group of students every semester to kind of look at where we might be heading, not just 6 months from now, but 2, 5, 7 years from now. And remembering that, okay, AI is really big right now, but hey, there's still the metaverse or augmented reality, and
yep,
AI will play a part in that. There's still blockchain. There are all these, Web
yeah.
3 is still around. It's just, it feels like the pieces of the AI or the digital game board have shifted a little.
Yes. Well, and also we've been around long enough to see certain things come and go and come back again. Like,
Oh, yeah.
who knew the QR code would turn into, right? Remember? But did you have to sit through a number of stupid executions of QR codes back in the
Yes.
day? I re
Oh,
I
the
remember one where I had a client who wanted to put one in the path. And I was like, well, I mean, now it'd be different, but this is 10 years ago, Mark.
Right. Well,
What?
yeah, exactly the same. I was sitting on the subway one day and I looked up and there was an ad in the QR code. Again, 10 years ago, no internet access. And I
Yeah,
took a picture of it and I
yeah.
think I tweeted it with some snarky comment.
I actually had a client who wanted one on the Gardener, not like on one of the digital billboards of the Gardener. Anyway, and
But
here,
now they're
yeah,
amazing. You
yeah,
go somewhere to park, there's a QR code, boom, you go there, loads it,
yeah,
PayPal, done, I'm parked and
yeah.
paid. Yeah, it's crazy that the pandemic really, because no one wanted to touch menus,
No, no, no.
helped bring that back.
That's what came to mind, the QR code again, back in our lives in a major way.
And
All
it
right.
works.
Yes, of course it works. And now the phones are ubiquitous too. And now even connectivity is a ubiquitous. The first thing that surprised me in Paris the first time I went, surprisingly, was that everyone was on their cell phones in the metro because it was fully wired. And of course, here in Toronto, we're
We we had to go on line one, wait till you hit Eglinton Station, and then you had
yes,
about
yes.
4 stops. Or if you were on line two,
Oh,
there's
that's
like a couple
funny.
stops west,
Yeah.
and when you're going across the Bloor Viaduct, that was it. It was like, okay, I can connect for 30 seconds.
I can remember.
Davisville,
Yes,
check my
yes,
email.
Davisville, yes, because it's above ground. Oh, this is hilarious. We're showing our age, but that's so funny. Are they wired now, by the way? I don't
Yeah,
even know. They are.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, as they should be.
It's quite good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like we take connectivity for granted so
Yeah.
much now, but like you and I are old enough to know that that wasn't always the case. Okay, so the second question is the kind of meat of the one here, and I'm fascinated by your response. But and of course you know me, I'm coming at this from the marketing side and the education side. I'm obsessed with adaptive learning, like I really am. And we had this amazing demo of a product. I talked to you about it, or traded some
Yeah.
emails Tutelo, and they already won an award, and it was launched in March. So it's it's literally AI empowered tutors into existing courseware in the major LMSs, and the integration's there. It's working. The UX is really good. It was just for me, it was fascinating. But what I'm asking you is how do you use AI and Gen AI specifically, just or go anywhere with this in your personal and your professional life now, right now?
Well, in my personal life,
Yeah,
I still feel, and I guess in my professional, I feel like, even though ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude 3 Opus, which sounds really impressive, and it is impressive, have
yeah,
been trained on the internet and way more books and research papers and media stories than I've ever read, I still think I'm a better writer right
yeah.
now.
I think you
That's
have to. I think you have to stay that way.
but I've never been great at visuals or design. I've always struggled with that. And so
Yeah,
I love using AI when I'm preparing slides,
yeah,
text to image. I think that's fantastic. So that's how I use it a lot. I do keep testing ChatGPT. I want to be wowed in a way. And every once in a while, what I find is if you go back and forth long enough, there's a little nugget of a surprise. And
Yeah.
that's that gem. It's funny, I was checking out Meta's new AI
Yes.
on Instagram. Or yeah, on Instagram. I was just going back and forth with a silly conversation with it. And I said, how do you imagine what we look like? And so,
Oh,
it gave something. And I said, okay, now, if you had to describe what you look like
right.
to a person, can you draw an image? And it did, standard image of a robot by a keyboard, which is, fine, but it was still interesting. And then I said to it, okay, well, you're on now, but what happens when you're not interacting? How do you sleep type? A word I made up, which it means nothing,
Right,
right?
right. Right.
And so it said, great point, Martin. Yes, I do sleep type. And it went on to define what sleep type was. Complete BS. But I just thought, wow, this is kind of interesting. This
It literally gave a literal description of
it
sleep
gave a
types.
lit, yeah, that it goes and has digital downtime. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
sure.
that's the stuff that is the kind of, thrilling unknown about all of this in some ways. I mean, it's easy, and I mean, I'm taking over here, but I'll get back to the answer to this question is, but I'm a little bit sick of the hand wringing too of it too. Like it, you and I are using it as a tool, and what you just said is so important. It's a good tool for a writer to sketch out things or flesh out an area or tighten up this or summarize that. But to your point, yes, it's not written by you if it's 80% GPT.
No. And there's some tasks that are good enough tasks. Some
Yeah,
like
yeah,
scheduling a meeting emails doesn't
yeah.
have to be Shakespeare, or it just has to be grammatically decent.
Have
Can
you
you do
have
this? Yes, and
Yeah,
back.
have you seen Liz wrote a piece on the community. Liz has some pretty big, agency meeting, big brand meetings,
Yeah.
the type where there's 20 people on the call and three agencies and 16 deliverables. And she had
Oh,
Otter.ai
yeah.
do the summary. Oh my God,
It's pretty
Martin.
good. Yeah.
It was slick and I mean, it's not perfect, but it also summarized and extended and did a really good job at fleshing it out in many ways.
Yeah, those are good. So that's how I use AI. In teaching, I actually encourage my students to use it and I build it into
Good.
assignments. But what I ask students to do is I want them to disclose when they're using it,
Yeah.
which tool they're
Yeah.
using. I want to see their prompts and how
Yep.
they've changed. And hopefully they're putting a little more thought into, give me 50 words on,
Yeah.
whatever, or something
No,
like
and
that. And fact checking, all really important things. So more
that's
about the thinking about how you're using it.
Yeah, but that's fascinating, and that's exactly the way it should be taught in my mind. You're actually teaching how to use it in a modern sense, which is really of value. I had a great
Hopefully.
chat with you might know Angela Misery from Ryerson. She's not at Ryerson, she's at MTU.
No.
She was at U of T, but after you left, I think she worked with me on this last course of my certificate there. And she's a journalism professor at MTU now. And she's wonderful. She does a side hobby of writing young adult fiction, as a side, but it's very successful. Anyway, she's teaching journalism at MTU. And even 4 or 5 months ago, no, the faculty were like, oh no, head in the sand. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's still out there, don't you think? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think you can't ignore it. I think you
Yeah.
have to approach it with an open yet critical mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's too much there's too much fluff, and I took a couple cheap courses that on GPT and stuff, and it was terrible. So that's what kind of we're doing here at Me and AI. We're trying to build conversations and community because I don't, the PSIs are where they are, and then the professional marketing associations are coffee breakfast for $300. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Liz and I were just like, let's see what we can create with this because there's so much curiosity about it,
Yeah.
right? For the right reason. All right. Third question. Here we get dark. What do you fear most about AI in our life?
Well, I go between, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's either I'm really excited or
Yep.
just scared out of my mind. And I'm scared. One, AI is trained on our output. And human beings are good, but they also do some really bad things. And so the AI is
Yep.
learning that. And you have it in the hands of bad actors.
Yep.
And
Fair.
and it can really go off the wall. And then there's biases, the data is biased just because, it's US mostly or North American data,
Yep.
let's say.
Yep.
And so it contains those biases. The other thing is it's improving so quickly. I just heard a podcast, the Ezra Klein podcast with Dario Amodei, who
Yes.
is the co-CEO of Anthropic. He
Yes.
was talking about the levels. Right now they're at level 2, but he thinks he'll be at level 4 in about 2 to 3 years. And level 4 is when like AI is just amazing. I guess general artificial
Right.
intelligence can do
Right. Right.
stuff. And he said that's when government should step in. And I thought, no,
Right.
let's get the rules in place because otherwise he actually and Ezra Klein called him out on this. He used World War I as an example of when, companies got together. It's like,
Wow.
okay, hopefully we don't need a world war to
Yeah.
make companies pay attention. So I think that's a danger. And the fact that we don't know what's going to happen to the workforce. If AI gets really good and companies are solely focused
Yeah.
on shareholder value and hey, cheaper to have an AI. And even if you have this universal basic income, the word basic kind of bothers me because it's like, okay, we're creating this class of serfs. Is that what Silicon Valley wants us to do? Hopefully not.
And that is not what anyone would sign up for for this great improvement. Well,
Yeah.
I'm totally there with you. And I also that's why as often as I can, I urge people that you can't just again stick your head in the sand here.
No.
Like be aware we need to create governance. We need to create the rules and how it's used, how brands can use it effectively and not undermine themselves. And especially for communications, like I want to know what they're doing and how they're using it.
Yeah.
Will I? I don't know. But
And companies need to be humane, I think, and think about employees and how to get that human AI partnership. The tool,
yes,
like use it as a tool. Because when I think about it, so it's hard to admit this, or hard for a lot of people to admit in marketing and communications, especially on the agency side, where time's a big factor, there's a lot of work that's just good enough. And AI is really good at good enough.
yeah.
So maybe our goal should be let's work with these tools and help them push us to be even more creative with everything.
Yeah, I'm coming at this exact same way with you. And then, there are the things that are vertical or area specific that is outside of marketing that AI is already helping with, like, going through thousands of x-rays of mammograms
Yeah,
and things too, and just finding the stuff that's never going to be
yeah.
found by human researchers. So it is such a wave of change. And I don't, I am talking about it from the marketing side, but also the idea of a curriculum adjusting itself and training itself to a learner is fascinating to me. And
Yeah.
I've also semi-proven that to myself by training models on some of my courses, even a year ago. So, and then also, I think to your point about education-wise, a year ago, I was reaching out to PSIs that were testing adaptive learning. And of course, Martin, the response was, "What are you talking about?" Like it was very early on, and
Yeah.
but you've seen it yourself. Within a year, it's changed dramatically.
Well, that's the thing. I thought social media was fast.
Yeah.
This is like a whole magnitude quicker in
Yes.
terms of the announcements and the developments and the pace of change. It's so difficult to keep up, even if you're focused on it, which we are.
Yes, we are. You and I both are, and it is a challenge. And the sheer number of models now is really
Yeah,
is exploding, right? And the technology. There's some fascinating work going on, though, and I spoke. Um, um, Fab and I and Elena, a woman named Elena, spoke at an event in January, and she's involved with the governance and open source testing and models. And it is there is so much activity, and it is hard to keep on top of it. But I think
yeah.
to your point also the more we look at it, and our governments sadly are not going to help here, really. Not yet, right?
No, they have to be educated too.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Third question, and this will be good. What do you hope AI can improve in our lives in the near future? So the next year or two.
Well, I hope it can get rid of the drudge work, and
Yeah,
I hope that all of us have to do, and I hope it can just, you know, tiny or big improvements in our lives. So maybe, rather than going to Dr. Google, we get better
yeah,
advice from
yeah.
asking ChatGPT. And so we don't panic so much when, we're not feeling well. Stuff like that, that just helps us get around. Maybe even like there's so many pieces involved, and I think it's there now in planning a vacation. Like you say to a chatbot, okay, here's where I want to go on
Yeah.
these dates. Here's what I want to see. Find me some stuff.
Yeah.
And
It,
you
it
get it, and then you can go back and forth and refine
It,
it.
it was one of the first things I did when you could build a GPT on OpenAI. I planned a trip. I had just taken a trip to Champagne 2 years previous, but I wrote one to see, and it was amazing to see how it worked hard. I wrote an agent or a GPT, and it crashed, but it tried to correlate the transit schedules of Reims,
Oh
France,
no,
with the events.
that's
And
pretty good.
and Martin, I didn't ask it to do that. So I agree. I think there's a million ways it's going to affect us, and I hope it's in great ways. But to your point, take away the drudge work. If if and even on the marketing side, if you were responsible for looking at 3 or 4 dashboards and figuring out what to change on the spend, you know what I mean? To automate that or test it or do some real A/B testing instead of talking about it in theory and that sort of work.
Yeah, I actually like some of those, the non-obvious use cases.
Right.
So right now we're going for, let's do a picture or let's create some copy, but the non-obvious ones, and I've read Christopher Penn's newsletter, uh, is really good. He talks about how you can create personas of your character, of your target audience,
Nice.
and then start asking them questions, testing
Yeah.
different versions of messages there. It's not perfect, but it gives you some data, some extra knowledge or maybe insights.
Well, and it's sure as hell cheaper than a focus group. And I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know about you. I remember focus groups and they were painful in many ways.
yeah. The
Right?
sandwiches alone.
Yes, and the catering. That was always a big thing. I worked at Saatchi and we had Toyota as a client. We did multiple focus groups and everything. I remember one for a smoothie drink. It was not Toyota, obviously, and all the people in the room basically spit it out. It was like the worst possible result, and it went to reformulation, I think.
Well, that's good. So it worked.
It did. It worked. They got their money's worth at that point, even though they didn't like the news. Okay, our last question and a fun question. Profound question.
Thanks.
What is the best sandwich?
Oh, okay. For me,
Yep.
it's actually a crazy one because I am one of those people who is deathly allergic to nuts and have always been since I was like
Wow.
under 1 years old. Yeah, so
Wow.
I never had peanut butter in
Right.
my life, but it always smelled good and I always wanted to eat it.
Well,
So during the pandemic, my daughter found this organic sunflower butter that she said tastes like peanut butter. My
Right.
wife said it tastes like peanut butter. And now I am obsessed with making every version of peanut butter and jelly or banana or avocado or anything sandwiches. I put it on crackers. You know, to me, that's my favorite go-to sandwich now. But again, ties back with something that I missed
So,
during childhood.
so really, you're allergic to peanuts
Yeah.
specific, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And
sunflower.
all nuts, actually, but not
Oh, right.
sunflower
Okay.
seeds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good for your daughter I mean, that's,
Oh, changed my life.
and you know what? I can imagine it tasting quite the same way. And it's funny. I didn't eat peanut butter for years, but I became one of those people that bake sourdough in the pandemic. So now I have lots of bread, and lots of bread leads to lots of peanut
Yeah.
butter. All right. Well, there you go, Mr. Waxman. There you go. That was a lovely half hour. Thanks for being in the community. Liz and I just started it, but it's gotten some great traction, and we've got some great people on board. All kinds of, we've got students, we have professors, we have media people, we have executives, we have agency presidents. So it's great to have you in the community, and
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing more of you.
Oh, well, likewise. And thank you for inviting me and thank you for creating it. And, not to put more work on you, but an in-person gathering at some point would be really great.
Liz has already brought it up, and we absolutely, yes, we're gonna do in-person gatherings for
And
sure.
pay your own way, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Yes, we're gonna do that. And we're gonna launch a lab section, so I may be in touch with you. I
Okay.
also would love to do like a teachers roundtable, kind of instructors roundtable at some point, like with Angela and other folks that are teaching. So anyway, thank you so much. We'll have the
Thank you.
recording up tomorrow, and have a great week.
You too. Bye, Steve.
Bye bye.